While paying for the $95,000 venue, I overheard one of the bridesmaids whisper, "I hope she tells him before he says I do." The second those words hit my ears, I demanded to know what she meant. Instead of answering, she completely freaked out and ran off. I'm using a throwaway account to share this because it involves real people, and I don't need the drama finding its way back to me. This all happened about 8 months ago, and I've only just gotten to the point where I'm ready to tell the full story. Fair warning, it's long. But stick with me because the ending is worth it. For privacy, I've changed everyone's names except for family members. I'm 31, male, and I work as a senior project manager for one of the largest construction companies in Denver. My journey didn't start glamorous at all. I started at the absolute bottom. At 18, I was just a general laborer on construction sites. Nights were spent at community college, grinding through classes. Eventually, I transferred and finished my civil engineering degree while still working full-time during the day. By 25, I was running smaller projects. By 28, I was managing multi-million-dollar commercial developments and pulling in $260,000 a year. Everything I have, I built through grinding while others were out partying. I live in a downtown loft that I bought in cash. It's 1,800 square feet, floor-to-ceiling windows, with a view so stunning that visitors literally stop mid-sentence when they see it. My car is a 2022 Dodge Challenger SRT. I saved 3 years to buy it outright because I didn't want to finance. My investment portfolio is so well diversified that I can sleep through any market swings without worry. All this background matters because I came from absolutely nothing. My dad spent 40 years in construction. He'd come home with concrete stuck under his fingernails, but his pride in his work never wavered. My mom cleaned office buildings at night to help cover my college textbooks. They drilled into me that anything worthwhile demands sacrifice, dedication, and integrity. Nobody ever handed me a thing. 3 years ago, I went to a charity auction for children's hospitals at the Brown Palace Hotel. It was black tie, the kind of event where Denver's professionals mingle while throwing money at good causes. I bid on a few things, wrote a solid check to the cause, and was about to head out when I saw her. Victoria. She was 26 at the time, working as a marketing assistant for a small boutique consulting firm. She made maybe $32,000 a year, as I later found out. But what really struck me, she was absolutely stunning. A natural blonde, the type of beauty that literally makes conversations stop when she walks into a room. She got modeling offers from random photographers she'd meet in coffee shops. Growing up, women like Victoria never even noticed guys like me. In high school and college, I was the serious one, the student who worked construction jobs every summer while those girls dated athletes and frat presidents. But now I had the loft, the car, the 6-figure salary, and the confidence that comes with hard-earned success. Suddenly, I was the kind of guy that caught someone like her's attention. We first talked near the silent auction tables. She complimented my bid on a weekend getaway package and said how much she admired people who supported children's charities. Her laugh was infectious, her smile lit up the room, and when she handed me her number, without me even asking, I felt like I'd hit the jackpot. Our first dinner date should have told me everything I needed to know, but I was too wrapped up in her to notice the red flags. I'd picked an upscale steakhouse. She looked incredible, dressed to kill in something that probably cost more than her entire weekly paycheck. Midway through appetizers, she excused herself to the restroom, and when she came back, she casually said she'd forgotten her purse in the rush to get ready. Red flag number 1. The second came on our follow-up coffee date. She spent 20 minutes venting about how her studio apartment was basically a glorified closet, and how her student loans were crushing her budget. Later, when I offered to pick a nicer restaurant for our next outing, her whole mood lit up instantly. By month 2, she was spending 4 nights a week at my loft. My grocery bills doubled. My utilities spiked. And somehow, my gym membership became our gym membership. She borrowed my car whenever hers needed work. She used all my streaming accounts. Slowly, she just slipped herself into every corner of my life. 6 months in, her lease ended. Moving in with me, temporarily, felt natural at the time. She promised it was just until she found a new apartment. But she made zero effort to apartment hunt. That temporary arrangement stretched into 2.5 years. Victoria had expensive taste that completely outweighed her income, and no shame about showing it. She'd sit on the couch while I worked, scrolling through luxury websites, sending me links with little notes like, "This would be perfect for the office party," or "I've wanted this forever." If I didn't immediately buy whatever she wanted, she'd get distant and cold. And eventually, I'd cave just to restore peace. The engagement ring. $17,500. She spent weeks researching, bookmarking favorites, and talking about cut quality and carat weight like a jeweler herself. When I proposed at her favorite restaurant, she said yes right away. But instead of kissing me, her first instinct was to snap a photo of the ring and upload it to social media. From that moment, wedding planning consumed our lives for 8 straight months. She attacked it like a military operation. Binders, spreadsheets, every detail tracked. And everything, absolutely everything, had to be perfect. Which meant expensive. Venue. Had to be the Ritz-Carlton Ballroom, $48,000, because anything less would look cheap. Flowers. Imported orchids from Ecuador, $7,800, because local flowers were boring. Her dress. From an exclusive boutique in L.A., $3,900, plus fittings and special shipping. Catering, photography, music, transportation. Every category ballooned beyond reason. The total hit $95,000. Her words. "We only get married once and we can afford it." Well, more accurately, I could afford it. I was paying for everything except her dress and a few minor items she wanted to handle. Looking back, I should have asked why someone making $32,000 a year was so insistent on contributing to a $95,000 wedding. The guest list became another battlefield. She wanted to invite everyone. Old college acquaintances she hadn't spoken to in years, distant relatives, co-workers from old jobs, even her hairdresser's family. Her line was, "I want to celebrate with everyone who matters in our lives." But every guest added costs. When I suggested trimming the list to control expenses, she snapped. She said I was being cheap and trying to embarrass her family. She claimed her friends would think I didn't love her if we had what she called a small, pathetic wedding. Then, 6 weeks before the wedding, Victoria quit her job. Just walked out one Tuesday morning, saying her boss was making her sick with stress. She insisted she needed to focus completely on wedding planning. And finding another job. Not even on her radar. Instead, her days turned into yoga classes, pricey salon visits, and long lunches with girlfriends. Meanwhile, I was working 60-hour weeks, juggling 3 massive construction projects. I'd come home exhausted, and she'd be sprawled on the couch watching reality TV, complaining about vendors who weren't returning her calls fast enough. Her personality was changing too. As the wedding got closer, she became demanding, rude to service workers, condescending to vendors, and just plain hostile toward anyone she thought was beneath her. I found myself apologizing on her behalf to caterers, florists, and coordinators. I was embarrassed, but I kept telling myself it's just wedding stress, she'll calm down after this is over. 4 weeks before the wedding, I got an assignment that would change everything. My company landed the contract for a massive $200 million hospital project in Phoenix. It was a huge deal, the kind of job that could put us on the map for medical facility construction. They needed their best project manager there for the first 4 weeks to kick things off. This was career-defining. Success here would almost guarantee me a promotion to senior director, another $40,000 on my base salary, and a shot at even bigger projects. For our future, I couldn't say no. Victoria's reaction? Explosive. She said I was putting work over her, abandoning her at the most important time of her life. The irony was brutal. The whole reason I was doing this was to secure the financial future she seemed so obsessed with. But she couldn't see past her own wants. We fought for 3 days straight. She threatened to postpone the wedding. She accused me of not loving her enough. And when none of that worked, she just stopped speaking to me entirely. Days at home, I left for Phoenix believing that by the time I returned, Victoria would mature and understand the situation. The first week went fine. We talked every evening, and she seemed to have adjusted to my absence. She'd send me photos of herself handling wedding details, share updates about vendor meetings, and complain about the usual pre-wedding stresses. Everything seemed to be moving along smoothly. But during week 2, little changes began creeping into our conversations. Our calls got shorter, more superficial. When I asked specific questions about her day or wedding progress, her answers turned vague and evasive. Just running errands, or dealing with vendors. Nothing concrete, nothing detailed. Meanwhile, her social media activity blew up. Her Instagram stories started popping up every few hours. Trendy coffee shops, boutique stores, expensive restaurants, the gym. She was always out, always dressed perfectly, but rarely with her usual friends. When I mentioned this during one of our brief calls, she snapped defensive right away. She accused me of being controlling and paranoid, saying she was just keeping busy while I was off living my best life in Phoenix. That accusation stung, especially since I was working 14-hour days on construction sites and in client meetings. By week 3, the situation got more concerning. Victoria began missing our scheduled calls, later claiming she'd fallen asleep early or forgot because she was so exhausted from wedding planning. But then her Instagram stories would show her out late at social events. Laughing, energetic, glowing. Worried, I called her parents to check in, thinking maybe she was struggling more than she wanted to admit. Her mother sounded happy to hear from me but confused when I asked about Victoria's wedding stress. She seems happier than ever lately, her mom said. Very energetic, almost glowing. She's been out so much that we barely see her, but when she stops by, she looks wonderful. That comment haunted me for days. Glowing. Who describes an overwhelmed bride as glowing? By my final week in Phoenix, Victoria was nearly impossible to reach. She'd reply to my texts hours later with short, dismissive answers. Our phone calls lasted maybe 5 minutes before she'd find an excuse to hang up. I started to feel genuinely concerned something was really wrong. Meanwhile, my project wrapped up perfectly. The client was thrilled, my company secured millions in new contracts, and my promotion was guaranteed. Excited, I called Victoria immediately to share the good news. This was the moment, I thought, where she'd be thrilled about our improved financial future. Her response? Flat and distracted. That's nice, babe. Listen, I'm meeting the photographer in 10 minutes to discuss timeline changes. Can we talk later? She never called me back that night, or the next morning, or at any point before my flight home. By Wednesday evening, I was back in Denver, just 4 days before our Saturday wedding. My stomach was tight with anxiety. Something was wrong. Fundamentally wrong. But I had no idea just how bad it really was until everything started unraveling the very next day. Thursday morning hit with all the usual pre-wedding chaos I expected. My phone buzzed non-stop. Vendors confirming final details, my mom coordinating family arrivals, and dozens of last-minute emails. But first, I needed to settle the outstanding venue balance. The Ritz-Carlton's event coordinator had been calling me non-stop about the final $42,000 payment. That's more than some people make in a year, but it was the price of Victoria's dream wedding. Standing at the elegant marble reception desk, reviewing invoices that itemized every single expensive decision we'd made, I signed the forms and prepared to write a check that would wipe out a big portion of my savings. The reception area buzzed with life. Couples planning their events, guests checking in and out, staff rushing around. I was focused on paperwork when I suddenly heard familiar voices in the corridor nearby. Victoria's bridesmaids. They were meeting to finalize wedding prep. Their voices carried just enough for me to catch pieces of their conversation. Megan, this situation is getting completely ridiculous. She has to tell him before Saturday. That was Ashley, one of Victoria's college friends and a bridesmaid. Her tone wasn't casual gossip. It was urgent, worried, dead serious. But what if he cancels everything? Megan replied. She was Victoria's maid of honor, her closest friend since childhood. All these people are coming. Both families have spent so much money. Then came the sentence that shattered my entire world. Then that's still better than him finding out later that the baby isn't his. The words slammed into me like a punch. I actually stumbled backward, bracing against the reception counter. The hotel coordinator looked up worried, but I waved her off. I strained to hear more, desperate. She keeps insisting she'll handle everything after the honeymoon, Ashley continued. That's insane. He's going to figure out the timeline eventually. The timing is just so obvious, Megan whispered. He was gone for an entire month, and now she's pregnant. Jake's not stupid, even if he's been blind about other things. My hand shook so violently that the pen I was holding dropped and clattered across the marble desk. A few people turned to stare. Baby. Pregnancy. A timeline that didn't line up while I was in Phoenix. I turned slowly, heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. Through the glass corridor doors, I saw Megan and Ashley huddled near the windows, their heads close together in an intense private conversation. When Megan noticed me watching, her face drained white. She grabbed Ashley's arm, whispered something, and they both rushed toward the exit. I dropped the paperwork and chased after them into the parking garage, my mind spinning. Megan! I shouted, my voice echoing off the concrete. We need to talk. Right now. She stopped, reluctantly turning, with Ashley hovering just behind her like a guilty child seeking cover. Jake, hey. Megan said, voice pitched unnaturally bright and several octaves too high. How was Phoenix? Victoria said it went really well. What baby were you discussing in there? I asked. The silence was suffocating. Ashley stared at the ground while Megan's mouth opened and closed without sound. Megan, what baby were you talking about? We weren't, it's not, she faltered, then took a shaky breath. You really need to have this conversation with Victoria. Is Victoria pregnant? Another crushing silence. But her face gave me the answer I dreaded. And it's not mine because I was in Phoenix for a month. Jake, please understand, Megan said, her eyes filling with tears. I can't be the one to, the timing doesn't work out because you were gone. She broke off, crying, torn between loyalty to her best friend and basic decency to me. You have to talk to Victoria, she whispered, then ran to her car, Ashley right behind her. I stood there in that parking garage for what felt like an eternity, my entire reality collapsing. My fiancée was pregnant. The timing proved it couldn't be mine. And she was planning to marry me in 3 days without ever telling me. The drive home passed in a daze. My brain swung between desperate denial and painful clarity. Victoria's car wasn't in our garage when I arrived. Inside, a cheerful note in her handwriting was stuck to the fridge. She was out running last-minute wedding errands and would be back later. I sat on the couch, my leather couch bought with my money, staring at that note, wondering what to do next. Confronting her directly felt pointless. She clearly intended to hide this from me forever. I needed proof. Evidence she couldn't deny. Her laptop was open on the dining table, still logged into her email. In our entire relationship, I'd never once invaded her privacy. But this wasn't a normal situation. And what I found erased all remaining hope that I'd misunderstood. Multiple appointment confirmations from a women's health clinic across town. 3 visits over the past 6 weeks. One specifically labeled pregnancy confirmation appointment. Another labeled prenatal. The consultation and counseling session dates made my blood freeze in my veins. Every single appointment had been scheduled right during my Phoenix assignment, when I was working 14-hour days, 1,200 miles away, just trying to secure our financial future. I kept digging through her email history, and what I found twisted the knife even deeper. Correspondence with wedding vendors. She had been making significant changes to our celebration without even mentioning a word to me. Menu modifications, seating arrangement updates, music requests, even alterations to our ceremony timeline. All of it. All decisions made unilaterally, while I was out of state. But it wasn't until I opened her text message history that the full scope of her betrayal became horrifyingly clear. Victoria's phone was charging right beside her laptop, and when I picked it up, it unlocked automatically. Straight into her ongoing conversation with Megan and Ashley. I scrolled backward through weeks of messages, and it played out like some horrible movie I couldn't stop watching. 7 weeks ago. Victoria to Megan. I'm really late. This could be very bad. Megan. How late are we talking? Victoria. 3 weeks now. I'm taking a test first thing tomorrow morning. The following day, Victoria again. It's positive. I'm completely freaking out right now. Megan. Is there any possibility it could be Jake's? Victoria. He's been in Phoenix for 4 weeks. The math absolutely doesn't work. That's when Ashley chimed in. What are you planning to do about this? Victoria. I honestly don't know yet. Maybe he won't figure out the timing issues. Megan. Victoria, that's completely crazy. You have to tell him the truth. Victoria. After the wedding. I absolutely cannot lose everything now. Those words, lose everything. Not lose me because she loved me, no. What she really meant was the lifestyle, the financial security, the comfortable future she'd built around my income. I kept reading, sick to my stomach, and the details just got worse. She had been involved with someone during my Phoenix assignment, a personal trainer from her expensive gym named Derek. What had started as extra fitness sessions had spiraled into a full-blown relationship while I was away. The most damning evidence came from her banking app. A Venmo transaction. Derek had sent Victoria $600 just 2 weeks earlier with the note, for handling our situation. Money for the pregnancy. That's what it had to be. Probably meant for termination services she had ultimately decided against. But why didn't she go through with it? The answer came in another text exchange, this time with her sister, Emma. Emma. Have you told Jake about any of this yet? Victoria. I'm planning to handle everything after we're officially married. Emma. Victoria, that's horrible. He absolutely deserves to know before the ceremony. Victoria. He'll leave me if I tell him beforehand. But once we're legally married, he'll be much more likely to work through the situation. Emma. Work through you cheating and getting pregnant with another man's baby? Victoria. It was a mistake born from loneliness. He'll forgive me eventually, especially once we're husband and wife. Her calculation was breathtaking in its coldness. She was planning to trap me legally in marriage, then reveal the pregnancy after the fact, banking on the complications of divorce to keep me tied to her. So I printed everything. Appointment confirmations, screenshots of text conversations, email threads, bank transaction records. By the time Victoria came home that evening, I had a full dossier laid out, proof of her complete betrayal. She walked in around 7:30, arms full of shopping bags from expensive boutiques, humming cheerfully like she didn't have a single worry in the world. She kissed me on the cheek with what looked like genuine affection, then started chattering away about her productive day of wedding prep. I just watched her performance with cold fascination. She had perfected the role, the excited, slightly nervous bride-to-be, getting ready for the happiest day of her life. If I hadn't uncovered the truth, I would have believed every single word and gesture. How did the venue payment go today? She asked casually, settling beside me on the couch and curling her legs under her body. Very interesting experience, I said carefully. I ran into Megan and Ashley while I was there. They had some absolutely fascinating things to discuss. I watched her face closely. For a split second, panic flickered across her expression. But then she pulled the mask back on, pretending innocence. Really? What were they talking about? I gestured to the coffee table where I had spread out all the printed evidence. They mentioned something about a baby that couldn't possibly be mine. Care to explain that? The transformation was instant. Her innocent facade shattered into naked fear, the look of someone who had just been caught in an elaborate lie. Jake, I can explain. Everything. You're pregnant, I said flatly. Her mouth opened, then closed again, no words coming out. You became pregnant while I was in Phoenix, which makes it biologically impossible for me to be the father. And yet, you were planning to marry me this Saturday without saying a word, hoping I'd never notice the timing. Her shoulders dropped as the reality of being exposed hit her. For a moment, I thought she might actually confess, maybe show remorse, maybe admit the pain she had caused. But no. Instead, she turned defensive. You went through my private messages and emails. That's a complete violation of my privacy, Jake. The audacity was staggering. I violated your privacy? You're carrying another man's child 4 days before our wedding, and somehow I'm the one who did something wrong here? She shook her head. The situation is much more complicated than you're making it sound. No, it's very simple. You had a relationship with Derek while I was in Phoenix. You got pregnant. You decided to hide it until after we were legally married. What part of that am I misunderstanding? Victoria started crying, but those tears, they weren't remorseful. They were frustrated, angry tears. You're never actually here. You're always working and traveling. I was lonely. Derek made me feel valued. So this is my fault? I asked. I'm not saying it's entirely your fault, she snapped. But you can't pretend you're this perfect partner when you abandon me for weeks at a time to focus on your career. The entitlement was breathtaking. In her mind, me working to provide the life she demanded somehow justified her cheating and deception. Pack your belongings and get out of my apartment, I said calmly. What did you just say? You heard me. Gather your things and leave now. Jake, we can absolutely work through this. People make mistakes all the time. We can go to counseling. Victoria, you're pregnant with another man's child. Our wedding is in 3 days. There is nothing to work through. Her tone shifted immediately. Anger melting into manipulation. But I love you. This doesn't change my real feelings. We can figure this out together. No, I said firmly. We cannot. Leave. No. And then the mask dropped completely. The entitled, manipulative version of her came out in full. Fine. But I'm keeping this engagement ring. No, you're not. It was a gift. You can't legally take back gifts. Watch me. Give me the ring. No. She glared at me with pure hatred, but she knew she'd lost. Slowly, she twisted the $17,500 ring off her finger and hurled it at my face. You're going to regret this decision for the rest of your life. You'll never find anyone nearly as good as me. I'm willing to take that chance. That night, she packed 2 big suitcases, only taking the belongings she had brought with her originally. Everything I had ever bought her stayed behind. She left without another word. And the next morning, I changed all the locks. Friday brought the overwhelming task of damage control. The wedding was just 36 hours away, with more than 120 guests expecting to celebrate. Family had flown in from across the country. Friends had taken vacation time. Everyone had invested their time, money, and hearts into what they thought would be a joyful occasion. I composed a group message to both sets of parents, the wedding party, and our closest family. The wedding scheduled for tomorrow has been canceled. Victoria is pregnant with another man's child conceived while I was working in Phoenix. I have complete documentation proving this situation. All vendors have been notified. I apologize for the extremely short notice and any inconvenience this causes. I attached the most important screenshots, the proof everyone needed to see. The pregnancy confirmation email, the text messages where she explicitly admitted the timing made my paternity impossible, and the Venmo transaction from Derek related to their situation. I sent it all out. The response was immediate, overwhelming, and, for the most part, supportive. My parents called within 15 minutes. My mom was shocked, but instantly supportive, asking over and over if I needed anything, if I wanted her to come keep me company. My dad, after a long pause, just said, "Thank God you discovered this before the ceremony instead of afterward." Victoria's parents were devastated. Her mother called within the hour, crying, apologizing profusely for her daughter's unconscionable behavior. Her father was furious, demanding to know how Victoria could have acted so selfishly and destructively towards someone who had done nothing but be generous with her. The bridesmaids? Mortified. They'd bought expensive dresses, taken time off work, some of them traveling from other states just to celebrate us. Ashley sent me a long text apologizing for not telling me sooner. She admitted how conflicted they'd all been, keeping Victoria's secret while watching me pour my heart into preparing for what they knew was a fraudulent marriage. But the most satisfying response came from Victoria herself. Around noon, she started calling me, sobbing hysterically, begging me to reconsider. Not because she loved me, or because she felt genuine remorse, but because she was finally realizing the full scope of what she'd lost. No more luxury downtown apartment. No more expensive car. No more comfortable lifestyle, fancy restaurants, weekend getaways, shopping sprees, all of it funded by me. She'd have to move back into her childhood bedroom at 29 years old, pregnant, unemployed, and completely dependent on her parents. As for Derek the trainer, his life fell apart even faster. When his wife discovered the affair and the pregnancy, she filed for divorce immediately and kicked him out. His backup plan for financial stability disappeared overnight. Suddenly, he was scrambling to find affordable housing on a trainer's salary. The financial hit to me was big, but manageable. The Ritz-Carlton wasn't refunding anything within 48 hours of the event. Catering costs were non-refundable. The imported flowers were already arranged and delivered. Photography was booked exclusively for our date. In total, I lost about $58,000 in deposits and payments I'd never see again. But, honestly, it was the best money I'd ever spent, the price of avoiding a lifetime trapped in marriage to a cheating liar trying to raise another man's child. Absolutely priceless. Victoria kept calling through Friday evening and all day Saturday. What should have been our wedding day? Her messages bounced wildly between tearful apologies and furious accusations, sometimes within the same voicemail. I blocked her number after the 15th call. By Sunday morning, I woke up in a peaceful apartment. I brewed coffee, sat down with the newspaper. Complete silence. And for the first time in months, I felt genuinely happy. Optimistic even about the future. 6 months later, my life had changed dramatically. And for the better. The promotion I'd worked for during my Phoenix project came through, exactly as promised. It added $38,000 to my base salary and positioned me for even bigger opportunities. I bought a beautiful house in the foothills, spectacular mountain views, plenty of space, the kind of life I'd been working toward all along. I started dating Sarah. She's a financial analyst with a great career of her own. She pays her own expenses. She respects my work schedule. She treats service workers with kindness. She's everything Victoria pretended to be but never actually was. Meanwhile, Victoria's life collapsed. She delivered Derek's baby, a daughter, Madison, in late February. Derek's divorce settlement left him nearly bankrupt, so his child support payments were minimal. He moved into a studio across town and picked up a second job delivering food just to make ends meet. Victoria. She had no choice but to move back into her childhood bedroom at her parents' house. They supported her, but they were overwhelmed, suddenly raising their granddaughter while trying to keep their own lives together. And Victoria's attempts to restart her career? Failure after failure. Word of the scandal had spread through her professional network. Job interviews turned awkward as soon as potential employers discovered mutual connections who knew the full story. Her reputation was destroyed in ways she never saw coming. On social media, she tried to paint herself as a strong, independent mother, thriving despite challenges. But the photos told the truth. Dark circles under her eyes. Discount clothes from chain stores. Stress and exhaustion written all over her face. 2 weeks ago, she reached out from a new number. "Jake, I know things ended terribly between us, but I'm in a really desperate situation right now. My car needs $2,800 in repairs, and I have absolutely no way to afford it. Without reliable transportation, I can't even get to job interviews. Could you please help me out? I promise I'll pay you back as soon as I possibly can." I read her message 3 times. Each time it was more amusing than the last. Then she called. "Jake, please. I'm completely desperate. My parents are already helping with the baby's expenses, and I absolutely can't ask them for more. I know you're angry, and I understand why. But I'm asking you to be the bigger person." I answered calmly. "Victoria, let me get this straight. You cheated on me while I was working out of state. You got pregnant with another man's child. You tried to trick me into marriage while concealing it, planning to deceive me into raising Derek's daughter. And now you want me to give you money?" "I made some terrible mistakes," she said. No, mistakes are accidents. You made deliberate, calculated choices. Selfish decisions. Please, Jake. I have a daughter now who needs things. Derek's daughter needs things. Derek should be the one providing them. A long silence. Then, Jake, come on. You're making almost $300,000 a year now. $2,800 is basically nothing to you. And there it was, the same entitlement that had destroyed everything. In her mind, my success still somehow belonged to her. You're absolutely right, I told her. $2,800 is nothing to me. Which is why I'm spending that exact amount on a ski trip to Aspen with my girlfriend instead of giving it to you. She snapped back. You're really going to let an innocent baby suffer just because you're still mad at me? Your baby is not my responsibility, I said. She never was and she never will be. Victoria started crying again. I really did love you, Jake. I know you don't believe me, but I genuinely loved you. I just made some incredibly poor choices when I was scared and alone. No, Victoria. You didn't love me. You loved my apartment, my car, my salary, and the lifestyle I provided. If you'd actually loved me, you wouldn't have been sleeping with Derek while I was working to pay for your dream wedding. She tried again. I'm completely different now. I've learned so much. If you could just help me get stable again, maybe we could even try to work things out. I hung up immediately. She's tried to contact me 4 more times since then. Each time, her requests got smaller. $1, $200. Then $600. Then $250 for groceries and diapers. I haven't responded once. Derek even reached out through social media last week, sending me some pathetic message about how sorry he was and how he hoped we could move past everything and be adults. He even asked if I knew anyone hiring because his divorce attorney fees were crushing him. I blocked him on the spot. Yesterday, I saw Victoria at the grocery store with her mom and the baby. She looked exhausted, dark eyes, pushing a cart with generic diapers and store-brand formula while Madison fussed non-stop. She spotted me by the meat section, buying steaks, and instantly turned down another aisle to avoid me. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No pity. No anger. No regret. Just total indifference.